So welcome everyone to today's Skore user drop-in. The topic is top tips for running process workshops. This is one of my favourite sessions, which I've probably told many people many times, and it's a big topic. You know, we're going to skip over some things we could probably spend the sessions talking about in itself. So the idea is to have a good discussion, good chat about what we do before, during, after workshops. I'm going to share some of my favourite tips. I think they're still the same as last time I did this session, but you never know, might have changed slightly. Let's start. And again, just stepping back, process workshops are really a core activity which a lot of business improvement teams, a lot of consultancies, business analysts will use to solicit a process, be it as is, to be, should be, whatever it might be, from a bunch of people. So when I talk about a workshop, process workshop, I'm envisaging 5 to 10 max people in a room, virtually or otherwise, discussing a set scope around a process. Trying to get some sort of output, and there'll always be a reason why you're process mapping, so that will be set up front. And again, so the first bucket of activities or tips to sort of make sure you get right before the workshop is to set that expectation. Like I've just said, why, who, how long, why are we here? All that great stuff. Don't just walk in and blag it. Another kind of step is to agree the roles. 99 times out of 100 in my career, I've been facilitator. Brilliant. But there's other roles other people can play, even if they're not just participants. So SMEs here, we're talking about subject matter experts, but get someone to own the parking lot. I always like to give someone the task of watching the clock, because I've got a terrible habit of getting caught up, getting too excited, and then not watching when we get to a break. And again, so putting someone in charge of looking at making sure people the energy levels are still in a room, and suggesting time, might be time to make a brew or at least stretch your legs. And again, putting someone in about having again, this is not a holistic list, but someone who's going to police the scope, keeping us on topic. Again, good cop, bad cop. You can agree that up front if you wish, especially if it's going to be a bit of a gnarly, a tough topic. Have you as facilitator keep yourself being the good cop, because you're trying to get the best out of people, but maybe have someone that can kind of put their foot down and like if that is there. Define the data to be captured might sound obvious, but again, giving that thought before, why are we in the process workshop? Do not try and do everything. If all you're trying to do is to define an as-is process and understand some improvement opportunities, focus on that. And again, this is coming back to the scope, because if you try and do too much, what typically happens is 1 or 2 people will be engaged, but you'll lose the room, and then you'll lose some really benefits. So if there's time at the end, by all means, and the energy's in the room, go back, that's fine, but be really clear about what information you're going to capture, and then also how are you going to capture that. As we know, Skore gives you a few different ways of capturing that data. So if you want to create put things on post-it notes, virtual post-it notes, obviously, or in a form, make sure they're all set up before you go into the workshop. May sound obvious, but again, it's just getting that basis into place. We're often asked a question about how much should we share before the session. And again, there's no right answer to that. That would be a discussion again in its own right. But if you do have an as-is process, already, or a previous version or an industry standard, and you feel it's going to be beneficial to share that, do it. Doesn't have to be through Skore. You might have a video, or even a photo of something on a whiteboard. Hand it to people. Just say, look, this is what we're going to do. Worst case, it might help. Get the scope conversation cemented in their heads before. One thing about that, I used to get caught out. If you do share something in before the workshop, just assume at least half the people won't have looked at it. They're busy. They won't. So again, if it's important, make time at the front of that workshop to go through it step by step. Because even if everyone nods saying they have looked at it, I guarantee someone would. And again, there's the blank screen versus starter for 10 in terms of the workshop. That's one of those topics we could spend 20 minutes alone talking about. And I'm a massive fan. I always hold my hand up saying of a blank screen. I think there's real power in that. of getting people to co-create, even if you end up with the same as what you've had before. There's a real benefit on that. But there is often times, and I often do use a starter for 10, be a Visio we've translated into Skore, or a Skore that might have been in there already. And then you're all professionals, but just to say it, check the basics. Does everyone have access to Teams if that's what you're using? What technology is best? If it's a room, is the projector working? Do you have the cable? All makes perfect sense before the session, but you don't want to be running around in that time which you've reserved to have a coffee before that workshop if it's face to face. Just go and check it. Get there early. Get there the day before. Whatever it might be. So, in terms of during the session, again, this isn't like we're not going to go through the run a demo workshop. I would love a workshop, but this is more about the structure and those tips. Top tip: set the expectation again. You've done it before because you've done your prep. Just make sure people are in the room, they're in the right room. We're all agreed. Set the ground rules. Have 2 versions of your intro as well. That's related to if you're doing a series of workshops. So if you're working with a new team, that first intro, that first workshop, that's going to be longer. You're going to set ground rules. You're going to give a bit more colour into what you're doing. The second workshop you do with the same team, you don't need to go over everything in much detail, but do it. In terms of have a shorter, cut down version of that. Just to reiterate, even if it's just going through the ground rules or defining the scope or not. The 5 steps, we've got no shortage of content on the 5 steps, unsurprisingly. That would normally be Craig there, with his dulcet tones, casually introducing the 5 steps, which is setting the scope, activities, output flow, everything else. And again, I will bat on about that. That is a really good framework for you as a facilitator to follow. Been honed over the years. Really, don't recreate it, just copy it. And go and do that. We've got the next one about making use of a parking lot. Again, so if something's obviously out of scope, try and shut that conversation down as soon as. You might let it run for a couple of minutes because it might be interesting, but try and put that on the parking lot as an action or another workshop, or just as a open question. The other biggie is that if something's bigger, if it's bigger than the discussion time allows. So if you've got the scope is to get a high level process along a complete end to end, and you're having a massive discussion about the second step out of 7 or 8, try and put a pin in it, and try and get that kind of that high level, and you can always come back to it if time allows. The other one I see as well is you'll pick up on the signs where you just don't have the right people in the room. So you're doing a lot of speculating, or a lot of we need to go and check with Martin, or whatever it might be. If that's the case, don't waste people's time. Why don't we move on to the next part on our agenda, and we'll go and reconvene when we can get Martin in the room, and it'll be a lot more efficient. People don't want you wasting time. You shouldn't. It's fine. So again, that's a good marker. And again, the other one is there a key decision to be made? Now, you could put that in the before section of this sort of little session. If there's key decisions to be made, try and make them before the session. What CRM are we going for? Or are we using 3-week planning or 3-month planning or whatever it might be? That's going to, if you know it's going to be a key part of your workshop, try and get that decision made beforehand. Unless the decision makers are even in the room, and if they are in the room, prime them that they're going to be making these sorts of decisions. And they're empowered to do so. Top tips around managing the room. Again, if you're facilitator or you're one of the facilitator, things to watch out for is the quiet person. Again, not a hard and fast rule, but often the quieter people have more to say. Or just everyone's got the same sort of expertise. And that's what you've got to assume. So if someone's being quiet, it might not be that they don't know they don't understand what's going on, or they don't have anything to contribute. Their personality might just be a bit more reserved, so try and give them airspace. And conversely, if someone's dominating, try and just park them slightly. I know that's a tricky, that's easier for me to say, but again, you'll pick up tricks around how to do that. And again, keeping an eye on energy levels. I put snacks in brackets. If it is a face-to-face, think about the snacks. I know Craig, who's not on the call today, loves debating with people about what the snacks are for a workshop. Try and avoid the sugary ones, the overly sugary ones, because you'll have energy levels for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, and then people dip. Again, so it's quite a funny conversation to have. But again, there's something to think about. as you're mapping, try and use their language. It really is. It's not your process; it's their process. Yeah. So if that's a trap which it's easy to fall into. So try and use their language. You'll get a lot more adoption into that engagement. If you need to go and normalize it afterwards or anything, then perfect. But again, try and use that language. And then that last point on the managing the room, and it's not about. I'm not suggesting go and map the perfect process. I'm actually doing the opposite here. I'm saying don't fall into the trap of just trying to map the perfect process. That's not reality. Map it as you need it to map it. And then if it's not perfect, highlight where it's not perfect. That'll be a far better output as to if you try and go for perfection. So you can read the ausos here. Map level 1 at a time. That's a classic Christian. Assume it works. Often people call the happy flow. Pick one version of a process to map first. Oh, we're mapping our sales process. Perfect. Well, we've got 50 different products that we sell in 50 different ways. Okay, it's interesting. Let's pick one. What's the biggest? What's the one you did last? What's the most pertinent at the moment? Map it, and I guarantee you'll have some variations, obviously, but it will be a lot quicker, and you'll end up with a lot more standardized process if you just pick one variant. Or countries, regions. That's another good classic one. And admit defeat. I think I put a LinkedIn post the other week about when to stop a process workshop. Sometimes there are criteria where we haven't got the right people in the room, or stuff's not working. We finished. We don't have to fill up the time. Again, back to my point. Making the most out of people's time is crucial. Just to highlight a new feature in Skore, which you can and should use in a workshop, is the glossary. I think you might have seen that from a previous drop-in. But if I come over here, you've got a glossary now in the system. So a big part, obviously we focus on the processes, but a big part of process isn't just the boxes and lines, it's the glossary. You can really use it. So if I come into this little note box here, if I type in using hashtag, it will open up the glossary. So if I've got something in here to be decided, brilliant, I can add that in. If it's not there, it's too late in the day, so I'm going to put something in there. I can delete a placeholder, and then I can go in and I can so you see this, it just loads up that definition. So it's not just for acronyms, it can be for what do we mean by a customer. Put them in. You can open up the glossary, you can go and add it in there at that time. Brilliant. And again, it's one of those things, once people see what you're doing, they'll pick up on a lot more of the language they don't understand, which is quite neat. So you'll have fun during, I'm sure, and then post the workshop. And I've been a bit cheeky here. What I've done is I'm saying after the workshop, but I'm assuming you're still in the workshop. So make sure, what I'm saying here is explicitly saying make time to wrap up the session. Try not to map to the nth minute because you will miss stuff. So do however long you need, be it 5 minutes before. Just do a time check, like we're coming to the top of the hour. Just want to make sure we've got time, and then say, can we step through what we've done? Do we need to assign any actions? What happens next? Tell people what happens. And if it's a case of you're using Skore and you want them to go in and do a review and leave comments, show them. It might be the first time that they're doing it. And then obviously thank everyone. Again, as my mum and dad always used to say, manners don't cost you anything. So be polite, everyone. And then straight after the workshop, I would argue, timing is key on all this. Make them look good. Don't try and do too much tidying up in the workshop. But Skore does make it easy. I'm sure. But you want to go through, tidy up. Have captured everything in note boxes that want to go into it, whatever it might be, and then share it out as quick as possible. Even if you can share it before they get back to their desks, if they're in the office, brilliant. So get them while they're still thinking about it, or the next day when they come in and they've been thinking about it on the way into work or whatever it might be. And then there's a good question to ask, and actually technically that should be in the wrap up. Is there anyone else that would add value to this process? Such a simple question to ask. Oh yeah, actually I'd love Jeff or Jane to brilliant, include them, even if it's including them in a review, or just send them a link or give them a call to talk them through it. Again, catch people while they're still fresh. And then close loose ends. Do what you said. So if the sequence of workshops includes planning follow-up sessions, do that. Closing out, I often use the term guerrilla workshops. Even if you've got a sequence of workshops, actually just highlighting that you need to go and get 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If you're in the office, go and sit next to someone. Look, I've got this process. Your name came up. Can you just answer a couple of questions? Really good tactic to go and close those loose ends. Don't think it all has to be through formal workshops. It can just be, send someone a link. What's your thoughts on this? Yeah, send them a PDF, ask them to scribble over it, and then communicate. Keep communicating. Yeah. So if you've said that we're mapping for this reason, it's part of this project, communicate what's happening on that project. Yeah, communicate what value they've added to this process. Yeah, and the like. And then a little star here. Upcoming feature in Skore. I've tied it to asking for feedback. Again, assuming you're going to be doing a series of workshops or it's part of your day to day. Ask people, what do they like? What didn't they like? Yeah, what worked well? Was it too long? Was it too short? All those, you'll get a mix of answers, obviously, and some of it contradict each other. But if you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah, so really try and feed that into your workshop process. And then what I've done here is a new feature for Skore. As I hope you know, in Skore, you can attach, you can create and attach forms against activities. What we've got coming up is what we're calling at the moment standalone forms. So basically, it lets you share a link, not related to an object. So this can be anywhere. You can put it, you could even email it to someone. And basically, it launches a form within Skore, which you can define, and people will capture. Yeah. So this is just one use case of it. There's lots of, and you'll hear more of this in the coming months. But it just lets you, define, and I didn't give it too much thought in terms of what this looks like. But who's the facilitator? And then because it's in Skore, you can link to users in Skore, roles in Skore, processes, and the like. You can basically save that, and that's given back. Yeah. So, and then that will be in the reports in Skore. So you can keep all this information. If it's tied to processes, brilliant. If it's not, it's there anyway. So there you go, a little sneak peek of a little feature coming up in hopefully in the not too distant future. Some of my favourite tips, especially if you're in a team, business improvement team, continuous improvement team, mapping out processes, map out your workshop process. Yeah, and it's a really good tool for you as a team just to work out what is it we need to do before and after and during, and do we need a form and all this sort of stuff. But it's a really good way of and then you can share that with the attendees as well. Yeah, so you can say, like, this is what we go through. This is what we're going to ask on the day. This is the pre-reading or whatever it might be. Really, really useful tool to do that. Defining a process purpose is a useful little trick at the beginning of a process workshop, and you can add that against the map properties by all means. But what I like doing, again, depends on the audience, depends on what you're doing, is just putting a note box at the top. What's the process? What's the purpose of this process? Get people to describe it in one or two sentences. Sorry. Put it up there. It's a really good trick. Why I make it visual is that you can then come back and reference it. Yeah. So if someone's trying to change the scope or drag you off into a different topic, you can come back and go, does that fit the purpose? Is that what we're talking about? Yeah. And they go, oh, well, actually, no, sorry. Okay, you can go put that in the parking lot. That's a really nice little bit. You don't have to always use it all the time, but I've used that to quite great effect over the years. Get people to talk. Right. What I mean by that is you want to undoubtedly, you'd have done your prep. It would have been perfect. You'd have shared some stuff. You'll get in the room, and everyone will just be looking at you blankly. Yeah, not knowing where to start. Oh no, it's too complicated, or whatever it might. It's a very, very simple thing to do. Is just to say, just tell me about your process, or tell me what you do on a day-to-day. Get people talking. Once they're talking, you'll pick out a deliverable. You'll pick out an activity, yeah, or a trigger or a role, and you just start to put that on the screen. Once they see what's going on, it will open up. Yeah, you've got a bit of structure, it will build out. Just so honestly, just ask people, what do they do? What did you do like yesterday? Yeah, in your role, or what was the last time a customer complained? Talk me through that, whatever the process might be. Another one question, most of the time, a lot of the time people are looking at processes because they want to improve them. So they're looking at what doesn't work. Yeah. But if you ask people what doesn't work, what could be better, some people can't really think about that, or it gets too negative, or you're asking them something they're not really used to answering. Turn it around. Ask people what they like about their day-to-day. What do you like about this process? And I guarantee you, they'll say, "Oh, I really like this part," and then they'll quickly go into what could be better. Yes, it's a psychological thing. This works on all sorts of levels. So again, I like that tip. Yeah, what works well, and then people will tell you what they would want to improve. My all-time top tips. Anyone who's worked with me will have heard me say this time and time again. Top tip is just get started. Yeah, I know I've been going on about planning and all this sort of stuff, but there comes a point. Just get started. Just start mapping. Yeah. And again, as I've said before, don't try and map the perfect process. I've seen people get too hung up on trying to aim for perfection, and it stifles imagination. Yeah, map if the process doesn't work or it's imperfect, map it. Yeah, get people agreed, and then you'll get a lot more input and a lot more discussions off the back of that. That's insight into my professional brain. Hopefully you've picked up a couple of points. Well, thanks for attending, and yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you on a future session.